Right, good evening, everybody. Oh my God. Will there be much salt tonight? I think was a question from Demon Sub. Mate, the salt, I'm surprised you can see me and I'm not fucking buried in the stuff. Because
the pre-stream was salty as fuck.
For the last, basically, I've just had the last 45 minutes of him ranting like a bastard about his airbrush. So it could be a good spicy one. Oh my God, fathers. Right, well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. I'm not quite sure how this is going to go. David's head might explode. If it does, then I'll obviously make sure that we keep a note.
Clip it to make it immortalised. Yeah.
Clip it because it'll go viral. I did now. First of all, just a little bit of a housekeeping thing. If there are any issues with stream, please put them in the chat, or if I don't miss them in the chat, put them in the comments of the YouTube video, because I have upgraded my OBS system to a new version, and that could have introduced problems.
The chat's back to normal.
Well,
though.
the chat's sort of halfway back to normal. Some of the rendering seems to be working, but the text is still quite small. So I think I need to go back and have a play with Septopus settings, because I want the fonts a bit bigger for me to be able to read them while I'm presenting. So I'm still probably going to have to view the side window to see what everybody's messages are. But it's sort of working, and it's certainly formatted better than it was. So first of all, we're gonna have to pop this out. First of all, let's give a shout out to the audience, our viewers who are with us tonight, because they're one of the most important things. Let me just resize this and get it out of the way so that I can actually operate.
I'm just speed priming, boys and girls, so I'm not annoying all night.
Yeah, pardon the ASMR airbrush. So, hello to Wargaming Balrog, first in the chat. Well, good to see you, sir. Welcome to the stream. Hello to Darren, Stroke Demon Sub. Go and check him out on Instagram. I say it every week, but I hope it's increased.
You do realise who Balrog is, don't you?
Who's that? Paul again.
Andy.
Paul, stop changing your goddamn username.
You're making us seem more popular than we are, mate. Just saying.
Oh dear, that's fucking funny. So Wargaming Balrog is Paul from Pandyman Entertainment, makers of the fantastic Trench Offensive game, and also Threat Level 0, his slightly eclectic solo cooperative miniatures game. Go and check him out on pandyman.co.uk, I think, Paul. Hello to Shark from the other side of the pond, so good to see you. Hello to Cheese Me from somewhere in Europe. Remind me where you're from, Cheese Me. Is it
Germany or Denmark?
Denmark, somewhere up there. Hello to Spam. That's David's other half, for those of you who don't know, who aren't regulars. Who else?
The girl's lurking in the background, babe.
Hello to Tim. Hello, sir. No Battletech tonight. No, you're welcome. You're more than welcome, Paul. You guys, and hello, Crispin. Good to see you, sir. So, Shark, an Imperial Japanese Army player. Woo! Yeah, good shout, mate. Do you know what? It's funny, Shark. I bought the Japanese Army box from Bolt Action years ago, and I foolishly just piled into assembling it without really doing any research and list building first. So I made myself far too many guys with katanas. So I actually have a crap ton of officer models. So whether that was sort of like my psychic powers sort of telling me
your third edition ready.
Yeah. So yeah, technical difficulties are highly likely. Choose me. Yeah, no, I am not. Well, I'm not really very new to this software thing, and I think it's highly likely that swapping versions will have created problems, because that's always the way she goes. Having said that, I do run a fairly sparse. I don't have a shit ton of plugins. I don't have a shit ton of extras. Basically, I tried to run things as bare bones as possible, mainly because my PC is a potato. So I don't want to create too much.
Well, I thought I could smell chips cooking.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see how things go. So good evening to you in YouTube land, if you're joining us. This is our regular Thursday stream. I've got a cup of coffee here. Video and audio may be slightly out of sync. I don't know how to fix that, but I'll hope that things will resynchronize themselves. My renderer is saying 0 drop frames and CPU load is only at 26%. So hopefully it's not too bad. But yeah, we'll see. I tell you what, a PC upgrade has had to skip to the top of the pile. Cheese me. I'm going to have to bite the bullet, I think, and upgrade my computer. So let's go to, I'm just gonna, right, okay, so yeah, let's get into the show anyway. So what we'll do is,
it's been a week, hasn't it, buddy?
Oh mate, it's been crazy. What we're going to do is follow our usual format. So first of all, David and I will have a little bit of a chat about what we're going to be hobbying on while we're here with you guys tonight. Feel free to sound off in the chat. Darren's painting more xenomorphs. For I think what are you using them for? 5 leagues or no? 5 leagues. 5 parsecs.
5 parsecs.
Yeah, 5 parsecs. The spacey one. Netherlands. He's Dutch. Thank you, Cheese Me. I knew it was somewhere in Europe, but I couldn't remember where. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's saying it's not too bad. Just use lip reading. To be fair, you might have to run it with David's audio off if you're watching us at work, Crispin, because he's definitely going to be not safe for work, I think.
I have no idea what the fuck you're on about. I am totally work appropriate.
Do you know what? I've run Linux systems before, Tim. I ran FreeBSD for a long time. I liked running Linux. I don't know what your view on it is. Maybe we can sort of like have a chat or an exchange of messages, because I know that you're quite a technical guy. I imagine it's viable, is it, to run a Linux platform and do the streaming thing? To be fair, if I swapped the OS on this out for Linux, the machine would probably perform 1,000 times better. Anyway, let's get into the show. So, what are you, David? What are you going to be doing tonight, sir? Do you want to show people?
Come here, bit.
Come here, bit.
Come to the camera.
Right, tabletop. Yeah, there you go. You've got a cable across your view. Is that your?
Yeah, that's my speaker cable.
Oh, don't worry. As long as you know it's there. I didn't want you to sort of like try and show somebody something and end up tangled in cables and mess.
So, I had a present arrive on Tuesday, straight after the bank holiday here in the UK. I'm now speed priming the fucker. We'll go down more later. So, talk to you in a bit, boys.
So that's all we get. That's all we get from David. So for me, I was thinking about the topic of this month's paint competition, and I think, isn't it something like unbreakable or something like that?
Unyielding,
yeah,
like
that sort of thing. And in fact, actually, if before I go to my desktop cam. Yeah, that's very, very good. Chrome was closed, but I didn't want Chrome to close because Chrome is running my desktop cam, you stupid phone. Just bear with me. Continue with this tab. Thank you. What? What is going on with my phone? For fuck's sake.
Cheese Me hasn't had his worms.
Cheese Me hasn't. Okay. Maybe UK got it first because Jerry's had his, hasn't he, Cheese Me? Because he was spamming it in the on Tabletop Discord, which Walgo Barrog says I would lose weight with worms. Yes, you would, Paul, but there are easier ways.
Cheese Me, by the way, I've already played it, so I will give feedback shortly.
Yeah, okay, so EU is later. Okay, Cheese Me, I'm sure it won't be long. But yeah, if you don't want spoilers, you don't want to watch David's bit, so you'll have to mute it while he's telling everybody about how the game is. So, the observant among you might see there's a cardboard box just over my right shoulder as you're looking at me. That was delivered this week. That is my Wave 2 and Wave 3 of Batman Gotham City Chronicles. And it's chock full of goodies, and it's as heavy as all hell. So, with me wanting to get...
Did you have to take out a small mortgage for shipping?
The shipping wasn't a lot compared to the cost of the actual pledge, but we won't go into that.
She's not Spam. Tim, she's too busy painting her new place. Unfortunately.
Oh yeah, because she's just got a new residence, hasn't she, mate? Anyway,
yeah, literally got the keys this afternoon.
So, I am trying to go back and get some value and actually get some use out of my Batman Gotham City Chronicles board game by Monolith, which I now have all 3 waves for. So that involves, first step is get some paint on the stuff. I was thinking about, as I say, the painting competition this month, and then I realised one of the first miniatures. So the first mission book in the book is actually a Bane mission. So he seems perfect for this whole unyielding, unbreakable, whatever the hell the actual topic was called, because he's obviously, once he gets envenomed, he just becomes an unstoppable powerhouse. So what we've got here from the board game is the Bane version before he gives himself an injection of the venom dose, and then the one after when he's ripped and basically roided off his nuts with the venom. So we've got 2 miniatures that are basically going to have 90% the same paint scheme. Suggestions are gradually received on how you guys think I should differentiate the 2 Banes. So
paint the pipes like active and glowing on the roided to fuck one.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to do. Paint, because obviously he's got this apparatus on his back that feeds the venom into his system. So like David said, I was thinking paint these sort of pipes dark and inactive, and then paint, classically they use like a fluorescent yellowy green. So I was probably going to do these.
Paul, don't.
Go on.
Not you, other Paul. Don't encourage spam to paint Santa in my room, you bastard.
So we're gonna. I was thinking darker green there, and then obviously sort of fluorescent green here. But apart from the cables, what about a slightly different skin tone, or would that look too weird?
You could do the same skin tone, but you could do some veins popping.
Oh, that's true, actually. Maybe, paint the veins in... Because there are some quite detailed veins...
round his neck and across his face.
to show the stuff coursing through it. That isn't a bad shout.
Fuck! Ow.
Now what?
Jesus, I just stabbed myself with my fucking airbrush needle.
Okay, yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. Getting some base coats down on these guys. And then we'll see. We'll see how the blood vessel painting goes. Hello, Damon. Yeah, there are, mate. Obviously they don't come across very well on camera because of the prime model. Let me see if I can get it right close in and have it focus for you guys. So you can see this is the venomed version, and you can see like right at the tops of his arms and on the insides of his arms, the veins are standing out quite clearly there. I mean, they will be fiddly to paint, but I'll be honest, I could probably get away with blue murder, even if they're not, sharply or whatever painted. Even if there's like a suggestion of colour in them, it'll probably work quite well once I wash the living hell out of it. Because after all, they're just PVC board game pieces. We're not going to go super mad with this. We're not doing Golden Demon or Crystal Brush quality painting. So yeah, Pro Acryl by Monument has a fantastic transparent or luminous yellow. Ooh, hot tip, Shark. I tell you what, I have a friendly Jack who lives across the road, a guy who comes to our gaming club occasionally. He's a massive paint nerd. I think he's got most of the Pro Acryl stuff. I might even be able to touch him up and give that a try. So good shout, mate. Thank you. Oh, that's another good one. OSL effect on the eyes. Good shout, Tim. Yeah.
Right, shall we get to what we did this week?
Yeah. Tim, make one look like a Smurf. He's such a loser. Okay, yeah, no. But he does look extra roided up. I mean, he's even on a bigger base, cheese me. What the hell do you want, man? What the hell are you on? Yeah, so that's the first part of the show. The next part of the show is we'll tell you a little bit about our gaming from the last week, because we don't just sit here and pontificate and talk shit about this sort of stuff. We actually do it as well. So let me get this out of my face. So I don't want the desktop camera now.
We had a Saturday game.
Yeah, so as well as our Monday club as well as our gaming club on Monday, rather, we also had a Saturday sesh, didn't we, mate? So do you want to tell him?
Spam got involved as well. Right, do you want me to go first? Because I'm going to keep mine short and sweet.
Well, tell everybody about Everdell first, because that was really good.
No. I'm going to round that out after. Monday.
Salt warning. Hang on. Before you get started, mate, let's.
There's no soul. I'm one and done.
Yeah, go on then.
Played Everdell's Monday with bullshit.
No, not Everdell's. You played Underworlds.
Not Everdell. Underworlds. Played Underworlds. It was shit. Less said about it.
He's so fucking agitated. He's forgotten what he's played now. Yeah,
It was shit. Absolute shit game.
Yeah. You played against...
Don't know why I enjoy it so much.
In all seriousness, we have covered... I'll get rid of the salt shaker because I think we got the point. We have covered Everdell. You got me at it now. We have covered Warhammer Underworlds by Games Workshop on the stream previously. it's a fine board game if you buy it as a self-contained board gaming experience. But like a lot of Games Workshop products, it's as that's the idea, Tim. Tim says the salt shaker makes it look like you've got a bad case of dandruff. That's the idea, Tim. That is the idea. Yeah, Underworlds, you need to treat it with kid gloves. As a self-contained board gaming experience, it can be a lot of fun. But it's as unstable as fuck. If you start mixing and matching the different factions from the different waves of releases, start mixing the cards and things, there is some really, really wonky fucking balance issues and stuff. So just say, just so that everybody's aware, Warhammer Underworlds can be okay, but then again, you can have massive negative play experiences like poor old David had on Monday, where effectively he sort of like underwent some sort of twisted set of torture during his game.
Waterboard would have been more pleasurable.
Yeah, apparently Cheesy Games Workshop games and balance issues. Who knew it could be a thing? But yeah, apparently it can be. For myself, I might even have. Do I even have a picture or two? Let me have a look here. It's not even really worth showing off, so I won't bother. For myself on Monday, I was planning to have another game of Star Wars Shatterpoint. But sadly, we had a little bit of calendar confusion, and my opponent, Tom, got the wrong week. So instead of playing Shatterpoint, I played just the X-Wing, the first edition X-Wing starter box. There was myself, Rich, and Leon. We played 2 games, and do you know what? It was fine. It was brilliant. It was. Sometimes, even when you're doing tabletop gaming, you want to just throw down the product, just have some fun, no investment, no pressure. Obviously, for those who remember the X-Wing starter box with the 1 X-Wing and the 2 TIE Fighter models, it is pretty heavily skewed to the X-Wing. It's virtually impossible to win with the 2 TIE Fighters because the damage output that you need to strip the shields and kill the X-Wing is so big. If the X-Wing manages to separate the fighters and remove a tie, then you're pretty much done at that point because you can't win the race to damage. But as I say, we had 2 games. The X-Wing won both games, but it doesn't matter. It was just it was Leon's, I think, first encounter with the product. And it was just 2 quick casual games of X-Wing. Well, I say quick, we managed to sort of drag 3 hours for both games, but then again, none of it, I haven't played it for years seriously, and Rich I think had only played once before, and Leon never before. So as I say, it was a really good fun gaming club. Nothing too heavy, nothing too serious, just a bit of good fun.
Vidal on Saturday, didn't we?
We did.
Me, you, and Spam. We played the New Leaf set, and oh my fucking god, it is the best expansion for what's it called? Everdell. In our humble opinion, it is really good. We stumbled across a little happy sandcastle accident. Where usually you can't draw cards if you've got your maximum hand size in hand. We said, fuck it, draw the cards, discard stuff, and it made the meadow cycle really nicely for a change.
To be fair, we did actually make it...
Occasionally, it can be a bit stagnant, can't it?
Yeah, we did, probably because we've not played for a while, we did make one... Here's a hot tip. For anybody who's got Everdell, which is a tableau building board game with a really cutesy little forest animal feel. There is a rule in
Gonna wait till
Everdell
actually
that says if you ever go to draw cards, but you have a hand of 8 and your hand is full, you just simply don't draw those cards. Now,
Yeah.
we somehow managed to play that rule wrong on Saturday, and what we did was we drew up, but then we said, well, at the end of your action, you've got to discard down to your hand size. And I think we had a way better game because of it, because
Yeah.
the problem can be with Everdell is that if all of the options that are in front of you in the meadow, which
Are a
is
bit shit.
effectively in a play, there's a play area on the board of cards that are just left face up for you to pick from if you don't want to pick blind from the deck. If that ends up being full of crap, it's actually quite difficult to just cycle them and get rid of rubbish and actually get some fresh cards on the table.
It is easier with New Leaf. I will say that.
New Leaf does have some functionality to do that and make it better. But my hot tip, if you've got Everdell, just play it with the alternative rule that you never stop drawing cards when you've got a hand of 8, but
Discard down.
but then have to discard down. Higher P, yeah. I mean, as I say, we did it sort of by accident, but about 2/3 of the way through the game, we were like, do you know what? Everything seems much more dynamic. The only issue I can see with it, because we did, you know what David and I are like, we can't necessarily play a game without then doing an autopsy on it. The only issue I can think of,
You've got to have it still beating heart, fucking tore out on the table.
the only thing I think that potentially could be a problem is for new players versus very experienced players. Because if you're cycling the meadow more and cycling cards from the deck in general more, if you're experienced and know what cards you're looking for to pull off combos, that gives you a real advantage. If you're new to the game and you don't really know what you're looking for, you can't exploit it. So it might widen.
It's a bit slow.
It might make the game a little bit more prickly for newcomers. Is the only downside I could think of when we sort of dissected what had gone on. But I'll be honest, I think it apart from that source, I think once you've played it 2 or 3 times and know what the cards are and will know what things you're likely to see, that goes away, and everybody wants to see things more dynamic. Plus it also meant, though, to be fair, because this happened a couple of times during the game, wasn't it, mate? Where, like, say for example, I had a combination of the husband, wife, and the farm out, which is a 3-card combo that does quite well in the game. But I still kept drawing
Glass House.
Well, yeah, and the Glass House from New Leaf. But I kept drawing the same cards again. And rather than fill my city with more of the same, I was just then binning them. And, like, obviously the other players were like, oh, I've been waiting for that.
Yeah, one thing I will say is, though, it did affect, like, Spam, because Spam didn't get a farm until, like, fucking midsummer.
Yeah, But she did get one in the end. And considering considering we were playing with the base deck packed with all the cards from New Leaf, we got 3/4 of the way through the deck in the game. We did grind through a lot of the cards.
The optional stuff that you can play with the reservation tokens to reserve something from the meadow with a bit of a discount.
Yeah.
As an action. The ticketing system where you get to activate a worker an extra 2 times, that's really nice as well.
Yep.
And then, what were the scores on the doors? It was...
You scored basically 198. I think I got 87 or something like that, high 80s. And Spam was, what, about 60? Something like that?
High 60s, I think 67.
So, I mean, again, considering David and I have played more games than Spam, it wasn't a country mile apart. And there was literally about 10 or 11 points, something like that, between David and myself, top 2 players. So, but
And I mean, I had a stellar fucking opening, didn't I? Because I was still in winter while you fuckers were going into summer.
yeah, you had a very strong first turn. Having said that, though, I had a really, although my first season, as they called in Weverdale, was quite short, and I didn't play many assets onto the table, I did play some powerful assets, didn't I? Where I was,
Yeah, you got the judge in the court, which is what I fucking wanted.
yeah, because that allowed me to basically every time I built a
The
location
piece of
card.
stone that you fucking fondled all game because
Yeah.
stone was really hard to get that game.
So I was every time I built a construction card, I was refunding resources and drawing more cards, and I got a real machine going. So although it was my first season wasn't that good. It set me up to do more later on in the game.
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
But like David said earlier, we have been less than enthusiastic about some of the upgrade or some of the expansions for Everdell in the past, but New Leaf gets a pretty much unanimous.
It's really good.
Yeah,
really, really good.
Yeah. So if you are going to buy an expansion for the Everdell board game, buy that one first. It's the most recent one.
Yeah.
And every aspect of it works really well. I think there's an element where you can get resource tiles from the railway station, which seems a little bit redundant. A bit.
For me, Ginge.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's cutting out for people at home.
It might be. It might be
Oh,
my computer is struggling with the processing again.
Right.
We'll have to just see how it goes. I haven't got anything open that I don't have to have. I've got only my bare minimum running.
Shall we do the news now, and then I will talk about works?
Yeah, let's do the news.
Played some worms
oh, actually, hang on. This can't be helping. Let's stop this. Just bear with me a second. That is not what I had queued up for that.
What the fuck?
There may be some audio glitching, guys, as I am just... No, that is not what that should be.
There we go.
Oh, this is it. Right. Yes, I have had a fucking YouTube browser window running in the background. That's not going to help resources. Great.
No, that's going to be a bit of a hog, isn't it?
So let everything catch up, and then we'll go into the news. There isn't much to talk about, to be fair, this week for me.
No, I know.
Go away, bloody YouTube adverts. Not interested.
I don't think I even.
Okay. So, 3, 2, 1. You're back in the room. Let's go for a web browser. So, news, or also known as shit we've seen on the internet this week. Infinity N5. It's here, or it will be soon. I'm not sure when they're planning to release this. September, October, maybe. So
yeah,
for anybody who doesn't know, Infinity always numbers its editions with the N series of numbers. So we're currently on N4. We've got N5 coming out later this year. This is a fantastic video that breaks down some of the changes that are coming with N5. Infinity is, I've said it before on the stream, I consider Infinity to be probably the best miniatures war game on the market. Certainly not the most accessible, and not what I wouldn't ever say that this is. If you're brand new
it's not a baby's first war game, is
definitely not. If you're new to the hobby, don't start here. But if you have been miniature wargaming for a while, play this game. It is just simply incredible. The tactical depth is huge. The balance is incredibly well executed. That's fair enough, Peter. Everybody's got an opinion. We don't need everybody to agree, but I certainly think it's the best. As I say, but it's coming through with a new edition. Now, also, for those of you who are interested, I believe they have a global campaign running this week. Is it just this week? So if
I think it is. But again, Infinity, announce it not but 5 minutes before on fucking Instagram, please. At least give us some warning. So if we have a relatively decent scene at our local club, let's say we could organise some games.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I am not... Oh, that's Sharks on about bolt action. That's coming, mate. That's coming. Oh, my God. Yeah, the Infinity Global campaigns, as Peter says there in the comments, the Infinity Global campaigns, Corvus Belli use them. They all have in previous past used them to modify the lore. So whatever the result of the campaign is, that will have an impact on the way that the lore develops and the story develops behind the game. And it has sort of like it's even fed into how factions are formed and what sort of character models have been available for factions in the past. So again, if you're massively into your Infinity, do the global campaigns. Sorry, mate.
Biggest thing you're happy for in M5, JSA.
Yeah, JSA are going from in Infinity, apart from the main factions, there is also a little subset of they're sort of mini factions that they're called the non-aligned armies. So they haven't got as much depth in terms of model range and rules as some of the other factions. And currently the Japanese secessionist army, as they're now labelled, sit in this non-aligned faction block. But with N5, the story's moving on, and the Japanese secessionists are becoming a fully formed, independent faction within the Infinity game. And as somebody who plays JSA, I'm really excited for that and what new models they might bring out. So that's the first thing to say. To come back to this video by Robert Shepard, this is based heavily on a slide presentation that Carlos gave at one of the recent American gaming conventions, I think. Adepticon. So basically, he's sort of like doing his commentary and reportage on what Carlos already talked about. But it's a very good video, nonetheless. Near just over half an hour, and if you're into your Infinity, well worth a look. Obviously, if you're not already an established Infinity player, probably of limited value to you because you don't really care what's changing if you've not been in a previous edition. But if you are, well worth a look. Now then, this one is for you, mate. So we've got a couple of things from Kickstarter to talk about.
We have the first Everdell Duo.
Yeah.
Fuck me. Already funded. Absolute insane amount of backers already. The price on this one is ridiculous. For 15 of your US dollars, you get a little cute twee campaign style game for you and a second player.
Is it 15? The image is showing 19, mate.
Oh, it might be 19 then. 19, sorry, my bad.
That's fine. I'm just checking because I don't know if it had been reduced again because they've reduced it from 35 to 19. Massive discount for the Kickstarter. But yeah, now this is not an expansion for the existing game, is it, mate? This is a
No,
completely
it is
different
not.
thing.
It's a complete new, unique game. I'm backing it because I really like Everdell. I really like the art of Everdell. Spam really likes Everdell. So fuck it, let's get some more Everdell in my life. And again, is slightly less of a bear to set up and tear down than the current Everdell.
The current Everdell board game is best played multiplayer, where players are trying to beat each other's scores, and the interaction with it's like any game where you use worker placement and take cards from a shared pool. If you've got there is a solo variant, and there's even a solo expansion, isn't there? Mistwood,
Yes,
is it?
there is. Mistwood, yeah.
But apart from that you can sort of lock out cards so you can't draw them, you can lock out worker placement locations so you can't go to them, but it's not quite the same dynamic as actually having a human opponent who does those sort of things in a much more intelligent way rather than in a bit of an arbitrary random way. But so although Everdell itself does have a solo mode, it's very much a multiplayer game. So this Everdell Duo looks like it's a different design that's very much pitched at solo or cooperative play. I'll be honest.
Yeah, solo.
Yeah, go on.
So solo or co-op.
Yeah.
Can play competitively, cooperatively, or both modes as not necessarily a legacy style campaign. That's the wrong word, but as a campaign mode and campaign game.
Yeah, a series of linked games, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
I must confess, the campaign side of it sounds like a genius addition as well. I don't know if they could do some version of that for the actual main game, because that would be pretty damn cool. Now, as well as the new game, however, there is also another little thing in this Kickstarter, which is these oversized cards.
Oversized cards for the core game and your expansions.
Yeah, so this part of it is for the original game, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, so the original game cards have gone up from MTG size to tarot size, and the half-size cards have gone to the MTG size cards.
Yeah, there are somewhere on here they show the cards with their dimensions. I think they were 63 by 88, and now they've gone to 120 by 80 or something.
Yeah.
I'm less excited about this. Here we go. Look, yeah. So 120 by 70 is the new tarot size, and the other thing that they've done is not only have they oversized the cards, but they've changed all the fonts and the text layout here to make this bottom section much more readable. I'll be honest, this annoys me a little bit, because if they just did the fucking text and layout modifications on the original cards, they'd still be more usable. Without making them so fat and massive, because again, you've got to hold a hand of these damn cards
and build a city of them. And bear in mind, we were playing on a 6x3 table on Saturday, and we were still a bit cramped and running out of room, particularly when you start adding an expansion board in.
Yeah. I mean, for $40, I wouldn't buy these. I don't see that they're a
necessity.
Not only that, I don't see they actually improve the game, because I mean, when you get
again, I would much rather in the pledge manager for this is the wooden Evertree.
Yeah, which I don't think is shown on here. Oh yeah, hang on, maybe no, that's the cardboard original.
It's in the extras section, I think.
Oh, it is on here, is it?
Yeah, I believe so. Because they've also got the plushies and stuff as well.
Okay, I see it.
But I'm going to get that because my cardboard tree is looking a little bit sad.
Yeah, I would say the MDF Evertree is probably that is an upgrade. I think is worth investing in. In the spirit of not backing the same fucking Kickstarter multiple times. I'm obviously sitting this one out, even though I'm quite a fan of the game. Because again, David,
I've got everything else,
Yeah.
haven't I?
We're-
Whereas you're missing a couple.
yeah, and I could buy them, but why? You have everything. It's just, it seems to me wasted money when most of the time we game as a pair anyway.
Well, again,
so,
you'd be better off going to get Ispet or something.
yeah. Well, talking of things that I might be better off getting, these guys are back on Kickstarter. I'm disappointed that this has not done better for them.
Is this Ethiopian?
Yeah, Scythopian Wars. They've got a play.
For fuck's sake!
If there's a call to
Not
action,
again.
if there's a call to action that we can put on this stream and ask you guys to take part in, it's get this fucking Kickstarter funded, please God. So
I feel for them. I feel for them because at the end of the day, this is their second one now. But again, they were doing really well at Expo. They sold out of a load of bits and pieces.
yeah.
Cheese Me does have a point. The big cards are nice. You can see them from across the room. Yeah, that is true. But...
It is, but it's about table space. Cheese Me. If you this game deserves to do well. The only thing I can think that might be holding it back is the model aesthetic is very specific and quite unusual. I quite like it. The only one I'm not that keen on is the new faction, which is sort of like weird, bloated, corrupted, nurgly type monster things. But you've got like a zombie-like faction as well, and then these weird sort of like almost Renaissance-looking gothic robot things with weird faces and arms.
Yeah, we're good.
I think if anything's holding this back, it's probably the miniature aesthetic, and it's not the cheapest Kickstarter in the world. So for the pledge that's probably the most useful is £100. You effectively get a playable force for one of the factions, plus all of your assets like your dice and your rulebook and all the bits and pieces. I think the rulebook alone is like £10, something like that. So the 100 and again, so you but I mean, I would look at it that you're getting a playable army and a rulebook and all of your accessories for £100. Now, admittedly, unlike say a bolt action army box, which is like 40 odd infantry models and maybe a vehicle, this is probably about 25 resin miniatures. So they're not, some of them are quite sizable, some of them are chunky boys. Particularly the extra models, because for 65 you can buy the smaller 3-unit packs, but I think the full 4-unit set is the way to go. This game, the game itself has got so many nice little touches in it. I really like the activation and the rules. The way that, because it's at the same time it's streamlined but got complexity where you want it, in terms of the decision making. It's got a great pseudo infinity reaction system where you can spend one of your activations as a reaction to your opponent, or spend it in the normal turn order. As I say,
Tim sort of hit the nail on the head, though. Not cheap. It's a slight understatement for a new system that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We're not talking about some of the people that have necessarily had dealings with in the past.
Yeah, no. I totally get it. And I know that the price is actually a factor in them struggling to fund it. But like I say, I think it's a great game and it deserves to do well as a game. The problem is as well that they won't be able to expand upon it until they get some success with their initial offering. And it's just a shame. I will be backing it. I will probably, if I can get the money together, I'll go the 200 quid and get 2 full forces. Probably the Asylamists.
Darren's hit the nail on the head. Given how little wargame my group has played this year, mostly board games, I'm fairly in the solo camp at the moment.
Yeah.
He's looking for hobby stuff to buy.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I've had a month of board gaming. It's been a nice pace change, but I will be going back to wargaming next month.
Yeah, evening, Taros. What do we got? Yeah. Again, to be honest with you, Tim, I think the other reason that they'll fail, and we've covered it many times on when we talk. Every time we talk about Kickstarter, to be fair, I feel that we mention it. Kickstarter has sort of ruined us because people want everything and the kitchen sink. So if you launch even the most basic Kickstarter, they'll want, well, where are my 6 stretch goals? Where are my freebies? Where are my extras? Where is the bonus content? It's just an absolute given now, isn't it?
Yeah, and Pete's just sort of hit the nail on the head. You've got TT Combat bringing 2-player starter sets for between 50 and 80 quid. This is the issue a bit.
Yeah.
Again, Darren Sayum changed the start, and again, Paul's walking in here and going, "You need a 2-player starter set."
You do, to be honest. And to actually do it the way I'm doing it with like 200 quid is too much. It's too much money.
Yeah.
If they could somehow do a 2-player bundle for 100, I think they would have had success. But it breaks my heart. It absolutely breaks my heart. So even if you're not backing it yourself, get your friends to go over and watch the Let's Play on Tabletop. And
there is a 2-player option in the play. Yeah, but again, cheese me, it's the fact that it's the price it is for the 2-player option.
Yeah, the 2-player option is expensive, isn't it?
It's not a starter set level, is it?
No.
Let's be honest. Right. Is that the news done?
Yeah, that's the one, the Warfare Pledge, which basically has 2 sets, 2 factions, all of your assets. I mean, that's the other thing. So, yeah, absolute, please God. I mean, again, to be fair, the guys just deserve to get funded.
JJ's here from Scythopian. We're looking at smaller, cheaper sets, to be honest. We definitely got this wrong.
Yeah, look, the thing is, JJ, right? Oh, that didn't go well, Paul. No, that's brought that back. Honestly, mate, the problem is it's all about cold hard, isn't it? Okay, we're in a niche hobby. Everything in the world is getting more and more and more expensive, and
the other thing I will say, just walking in here as well, I didn't realise that this was live. From the looks of it, you started pledge managing on the 24th, and you're going to end on what? The beginning of next week?
Yeah, it's a very short Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Very short Kickstarter. But then again, I'm a bit of a fan of those. The Kickstarters that drag on for 6 months get on my wick a bit.
Yeah, again, I'm not saying 6 months, but again, maybe a little bit longer to help spread the word a bit.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you can't fault you guys for having a reasonable goal. It's not as if you've set it as like, oh, we need 40 grand. You know, you've been fucking realistic. But as I say, I'll definitely be back in for whatever I can afford to. Yeah, exactly, mate. I totally get it. Bad is bad. Well, we'll find out. Upworlder is Trevor, the other half of David's Underworld's nightmare from Monday, and I've already said, right, I want to try these Harrow Deep warbands. I'm going to play them because they absolutely boshed David's teams. So, yeah.
Right.
Anyway, that's that. We'll leave that there. Do you know what, JJ? All the best, mate. I hope you get funded, and I hope it, moves your project on. But whatever happens, don't give up, mate, because you've got a fantastic game. I know the logistics of producing the actual playing pieces and what have you is hard, but I think your engine that you've got behind it it's worthy of success. It is absolutely worthy of success. Right. Before we go on to the main topic, because we've got 5 minutes, David obviously was having a melodrama. I'm going to have a sip of coffee.
No, come down to my mini desk cam, please.
Oh God!
No,
don't you hog? Don't you fucking hog all of the? It's not the David show, you know.
Fuck you, dickhead. Fuck you. We have worms to talk about.
I'll give you worms.
So I've started priming tonight. And the minis are quite nice. They're little 25mm minis. One thing I will say, Mantic, you've absolutely captured the essence of the computer game in the chaos and the fact that the playtime's nice and short, and you've got 4 or 5 different options on how to play worms. Wonderful. However,
should I? Oh, hang on, salt.
I feel bad for the following reason. Setup is a breeze. Setup is literally the easiest game I've ever seen. Grab some tiles, put them down. 1 per player, golden. You then get starter cards of Uzi, Ninja Rope, Girder, and Bazooka. And 1 dealt at random from the starter deck. Wonderful. Setup's a little bit weird and different. You grab your miniatures because they're all just in a communal pile. You put little cock rings on the bases of the miniatures. For the colour.
Is that the official term? Is that the official
term for them? So it's four worms plus some scenery elements. Put them in a little pile by the side of the board. You and your opponent.
Is he overseasoned? Should we stop?
Place them randomly across the board with some caveats, i.e. you can never have more than 3 in a square and that kind of shit. That's wonderful. You then...
Oh, he did say cock ring, yeah.
You
That's
then
monetization,
get an activation card that has the colour of your cock ring and therefore the colour of the faction you are playing to activate and start playing. Wonderful. Again, nice. What I do not like.
Oh, here we go, everybody. Get your chips, get your popcorn.
You're playing with 4 worms and the box gives you 64. And 6 players all playing with 4 worms. That's only 24 when I went to school.
Are you actually complaining that you got too much stuff in your Kickstarter?
I'm complaining that I've got too many.
What sort of weirdo are you?
I'm complaining that I've got too many worms because, again, I have multiple copies of Mr. Shotgun Guy here. I must have 4 or 5 of them. But then the individuals that I have,
maybe the shotguns are really good in the game.
Mr. Cowboy here, I only have 1 of Mr. Cowboy. So, and again, because it's randomly... No, you don't get to pick your worm team. This is the thing. You just stick 4 cock rings on 4 different fucking worms, and then they get thrown across the board. And then once your cock ringed worms have been thrown across the board, you get a little reference card with the colour of the team you are. So if you've got 4 players, you've thrown 16 worms across the board and all the supply shit, etc. but you don't know whether you're playing as red, green, blue, or anything else. Don't get me wrong, absolutely awesome from a setup point of view, because you don't want to shaft each other, or you do want to shaft each other and do it. But at the same time,
I
little
was
bit
going to say that's one way to
irritating.
spread worms.
What I feel they would have been better doing a couple of the base weapon sculpts and doing a lot more of these like individual sculpts.
Oh, okay. So it's
just
not really the fact
my
that there's
2
too
cents.
many worms. It's that the sculpts, the mix of sculpts, don't make a lot of sense. And is it
Yeah.
a case of the Kickstarter could have been a hell of a lot cheaper without them as well?
Possibly, and would have been nice to have had enough room in the box, I don't know, to maybe put all of the tiles in.
Oh, yeah,
With
you
the
did
lid
say
still
about that the other
fitting,
night. Because the tiles
rather
don't fit
than-
in the box.
Yeah, not all of them.
Okay. Yeah. No, okay.
I did go God Pledge Cheese me.
So I sort of get what you're moaning about then. I get it now. It's not just there are too many miniatures. It's a bit more
Yeah, but cheese
complicated
me,
than that.
then I've got to play with the cock rings, and it just seems like effort.
Can we stop calling them cock rings?
No, I will not stop calling them cock rings. I'm going to get us demonetized, bitch.
Mate, we're not even there yet. Well, in like 10 years from now, when all of our videos get monetized.
But I have, Paul, found you.
What the hell is that?
It's a Scottish worm.
Wearing a tam o' shanter.
Yep.
Oh my god. well said, Tim. Tim says he pledged all in and now has too many minis. Doorknob. Well said. Well said. Well said.
No, Tim, I don't play with multiple children because that's wrong on multiple levels.
Oh my god. So yeah, okay, but all things considered, the game's good though. Apart from you bitching about having too many miniatures now. I mean, fucking hell, there's only about 3 colours on each of them. You should be able to paint them in an afternoon.
Well, I've just primed them all this evening because they're all little on baby 25mm bases.
There you go. Shots.
But
look, it'll be the first game you've ever bought that'll be fully painted.
Fuck off, cunt.
What about Assassin's Creed? Oh dear. Has anyone seen my Assassin's Creed miniatures?
I'm going to come round and burn your house down. Just saying. If Paul is suspiciously not here this next week, I may have just admitted to my crimes on the internet.
Oh dear. Well, now wouldn't that be a board game? Lemmings, where we're all just pushing them off the edge of the table. That'll be funny. Okay. So before we move on to the main topic, I just want to say, and I meant to say this last week when I was on my own, but I forgot. So I said a few weeks ago that I bought myself, or rather my generous wife bought me for my birthday, a new compressor for airbrushing. And I went from a tankless, basic bitch, 60 quid off Amazon Chinese compressor
job
to the Sparmax TC610H. So I did, first thing I will admit, I made a massive jump from like a £60 entry level compressor to a £250-ish, I think it is, compressor with the Sparmax. I've been airbrushing for base coating and priming for many years. What would you say, mate? 5 years? Since pre-Scotland.
At least.
Yeah, more. Before I moved to Scotland, I was dabbling with the airbrush. And I've upgraded from my cheap Chinese crappy airbrushes to a Badger Patriot, which I have found to be an amazing, reliable and great value airbrush. But I never realised how important the compressor is. Okay, so what I wanted to shout out for those people who are maybe inexperienced or new at airbrushing, I would always recommend that everybody start their journey with a cheap starter set from Amazon or eBay or one of those places. You can get airbrush, air hose, compressor, the whole kit and caboodle for under £100 easily. They are all basically the same, and they will teach you the absolute bare essentials of airbrush maintenance, airbrush handling. They give you something to practice with in terms of trigger control. Always start there. It's absolutely a no-brainer. However, do not underestimate the value of an expensive or better quality compressor. I used to run my Patriot on the old compressor, and I used to use Vallejo model colour through the airbrush, which is not the easiest thing to do. And I used to have a few issues with clogging and sputtering and flow problems. I have switched to the Sparmax, made all of that go away. Just having a consistent airflow from a great quality regulator attached to a stabilized tank improved my airbrushing experience probably more than changing from the cheap airbrush to the Patriot, which did massively step up my airbrushing experience as well. But I made the mistake of thinking that the compressor wasn't as important, and I was wrong. And don't make the same mistake as me. Look, when you've cut your teeth and you outgrow your starter set, do both. Upgrade your compressor and your airbrush to. They don't have to be the top of the range. I mean, I didn't buy the top of the range Sparmax. I could have spent another 150 to £400, I think was the top one. I don't know what all the bells and whistles. I think one of the main features is, as you get more expensive, it has independent regulators, so you can run two separate airbrushes at two separate pressures. Why you would, I mean, again, you're talking super fucking technical. Why you would need it, I don't know, but that's because I don't do it for a living. But yeah, public information, basically, don't sleep on how important a good quality airbrush is to the whole airbrushing experience. Do you have anything to add, mate?
Not really, because I've only ever airbrushed with a tank.
Yeah. Taros, this is turned to an open university lecture. Yes, mate, it is. Yeah.
That will be 500 of your Great British pounds, please.
Yeah, we're not free like the Open University. Screw that.
Your U's not free, you twat.
Oh, isn't it? I wouldn't know. I've never been. Right. Shall we get on to the main topic?
Yeah, we've got some salt to pour out, haven't we?
God, do we have to have the salt shaker on again?
I think we might have to.
So, let me bring. I'm gonna need my desktop cam, but I'm gonna leave it there for the minute, because I'm in the swing of painting, so I want to carry on. So, main topic o'clock: rule books. For Hi Rich. Is to do with CFM rather than the PSI. Look, get out of here with your TLAs, you fucking engineer. Yeah, rule books. So, in the board gaming sector, this is still something that will see games fail, because board gamers aren't very tolerant of bad rule books. And in fact, one of the things that made the Gotham City Chronicles board game from Monolith almost notorious when it came out back in the day.
Cubic feet per minute, excuse me.
Is how bad the rulebook was. Being a miniature wargamer and reading the Gotham City Chronicles rulebook, I actually don't think it's that bad. But after you've listened to us talk for just under an hour on rulebooks in wargaming, you might understand why we have our standards set so fucking low. And
where's your salt shaker, bitch?
And to be honest, I'm not so sure that we should. I think we should call manufacturers out or games companies out for shit rulebooks more. I mean, I don't know how best to approach the topic really, but I guess let's start.
Shall we kick off what started this? So, me and Paul are hobby magpies. We flit and flop between games. We don't play games regularly. Therefore, we rely on the rule books to help us between the games that we play. Because we might play a game now and then not play the game again for another 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, because we have too many games that we play. Is the brutal
truth. Consequently, we get very triggered very quickly if a rulebook is shit and doesn't help us actually play the game that we want to enjoy playing.
Yeah. Now, in terms
that's a bit of the background.
In terms of rulebooks, I don't know. The problem with these sort of topics is it is unfortunately it's a lot easier to focus on the negative than it is to focus on the positive. And that's just an inevitable part of it. But I think the best thing to do is to, particularly as we've eaten into our time, if we will tackle the sort of things that trigger us, and the bad examples, but we will give a shout out. We're not going to be ungenerous. We will shout out great examples as we come across them, or as they come up in conversation. Do you think that's fair, mate?
Yes. So I think let's kick this off. We've said we use these to reference games which we haven't played for like 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. Therefore, when we come back to it, there are gaming terms that are synonymous with everybody that plays war games. The movement phase, or how to resolve movement, how to resolve ranged attacks, how to resolve combat. For God's sake, manufacturers, give us a fucking index.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute. The thing is, with something like with this one, right? You don't. It is literally just something that you include in the layout at the end. Okay, it doesn't need to affect or influence anything else about the rulebook. But why fucking hell? If your book is over sort of like 16 pages long, include an index at the back, an alphabetized list of game terms, phases, whatever. You know, once your rulebook reaches,
can find that information.
Once your rulebook reaches 100 pages, 200 pages, and you do not have that information, you have got a fucking horrible rulebook to use. So, let's actually start with the naming and shaming, right? Okay, so in this context, there are two games that David and I like that we think that the rulebooks are shit from this point of view. The first one is Carnivale, isn't it? Okay.
Well, yeah, Carnivale is shit for multiple reasons, but not having an index especially so.
Yeah. because the first thing to again, right? What is your rule book for? Okay, so your rule book has multiple uses. It has multiple functions that it needs to fulfill. The rule book needs to teach the player to play the game unless you do a quick start guide. Okay, and there are always other options. But if you don't have a quick start guide, it's effectively your tutorial. So it teaches the player to play the game. Secondly, when you are playing the game, it is your reference to the rule sections or to the rule details. Okay, you might have keywords on your character cards. You might have, unless you're producing a specific QRF to replace this, as in a quick reference sheet for those not familiar with the terminology, which may be possible in YouTube land. If you do not produce a specific bespoke quick reference sheet, this is what this is. Okay? Yeah. And I'll be brutally honest, I think quick reference sheets are essential, and I don't know if David would agree. This is probably an interesting point to bring this in. I personally think that quick reference sheets are basically rubbish. Okay? The problem with a quick reference sheet is they tend to be pared down so that there are a couple of sides of A4 or even smaller. There might be a piece of A4 card or an A4 printed sheet in your game. With so little space, the detail that goes on them tends to be minimal. But that's, and the problem is, that's not the information that you end up referencing. What you'll end up referencing during the game is, again, right, how did the cover rules work? What happens if I try to move when I'm engaged? That sort of stuff is rarely on a QRF.
A really good example of a QRF. It's more board game focused here, but the Arkham Horror 3rd edition board game has a QRF for player actions, etc. It does not have the intrinsic values of how everything works. All it does is a little brief reminder and foray for while you're overloaded as fuck because Cthulhu's eating and beating your ass. I like that style. I am definitely not a fan of these multiple page articles, because the other thing we have found historically in the past is some of these QRF sheets cite the wrong rules.
Yeah, I mean,
and when they cite that, you learn off a QRF sheet and then you actually read the rules after, and it's like, oh, well, we've been doing that wrong.
Yeah.
But we've been doing it as the QRF sheet. So it's a bit...
See, cheese me.
A bit of both and a bit of how's your father.
As I say, I mean, I know the guys in the chat are saying, I mean, Toros gives a shout out. Napoleon Battles had a great QRF. Cheese me says, if the QRF is rubbish, then the rules are rubbish. I know what you guys are saying, but maybe I'm just weird and I've got an autistic brain, but whenever I have a query with the rule set, 8 or 9 times out of 10, I look at the QRF and that wasn't what I was looking for. What I was looking was for something much grittier, much more nuanced. And the problem is, it's an exceptional QRF that can present. I mean, I'm sure there are games that have actually fucking nailed it, where it's like, it doesn't matter what your question is, it's on here. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure there are games out there that have done it. But I do think that it's something, again, it's not a panacea. Just because you've got your QRF is not a get out of jail free card for a rule book that's difficult to navigate. Okay?
Shall we come to the next argument as well?
Hang on a minute. I was talking about
sort of everything we're saying so far.
Well, hang on a minute. So we were talking about what is the purpose of your rulebook. It's a tutorial. It's a reference tool for when you are actually playing the game and want to get, exact answers to specific questions. And the other thing it might be is just a beautiful way to advertise your world and your lore and your photographs of your minis. Okay, it's absolutely fine for this one book to do all of these jobs, but for fuck's sake, think about all of the jobs when you design the goddamn book. Okay, right, mate. Yeah, where did you want to move on to?
Flow links to everything we've been talking about so far. So obviously, if you haven't got an index in your book, the next way you can make up for it is having at the very start of the book here's what the game rounds and here's what the flow of a typical turn looks like, and then laying your book out such that it mirrors the game flow. So if you move before you do any shooting, guess what? Reference that in that section.
Yeah.
Then go to close combat and that kind of thing. Carnivale, we are looking at you because your layout is fucking terrible.
To be fair, Carnivale has
flow backwards and forwards and meander around so much, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the problem that the thing is I've got the actual Carnivale core rulebook here, but it's been sort of replaced by the Blood on the Water book, which I haven't got here. But I mean, again, the problem, Carnivale does have a difficult job because there is no turn structure. Each model has actions and it can take those actions in any order. So almost by default, David's sort of like ideal sort of scenario, you can't reproduce it easily because you need to describe the action. So what do? Do you do them in alphabetical order? I mean, most places tend to do them in what makes a sensible order for them. So you'll find that they're in the order movement, then attack, then whatever. And again, flow is critical. Like if you've got a sort of, what you almost want is a mini index, or you need to think about, if you're already starting from a position where it's difficult to lay it out, think about it first. I mean, again, we come back to an index. If you've got that sort of game where it is all a bit all over the place, because once you're in the actual play phase, you can pretty much do anything you like in any order that you like. If that's the case, your index is doubly fucking important, because I want to find the hide action and I only do it once in every 4 games. Where will I find that? It's
yeah. Can I give a shout out to a rulebook that has really good flow?
Yeah, go on.
Flames of War. Everything is in a logical order. Everything is sectioned. Everything is referenced in the index, etc., so you can easily find it. So that's hats off first thing to Battlefront. The second thing with the flow, they break down the action and what they are doing into step-by-step procedures. Again, cover and shooting. They reference and make reference to, they have like a little picture with a scenario of this model's in cover, this model isn't, this model's obscured, that kind of stuff. All essential parts are there and present. Do you know what I mean? Throughout the,
I will be flicking through the
yes,
book.
there are some weird things, like assaults don't really flow particularly well.
To be fair, though, I don't think just talking about the assault rules in.
I have with that book.
Just talking about the assault rules in Flames of War, I think that's not really the fault of the rulebook. The rulebook does actually quite a good job. The assaults rules are just the most fiddly part of Flames of War. Having played the game, the thing that will leave you scratching your head and have you constantly thinking, "Are we doing this right?" is the assault rules. Certainly in the current editions. What is this? We've got a shout out. Darren says ring binding is a thing. Do you know what? That's a good shout, Darren. presentation. Darren says Gaslands is particularly
Copyright infringement,
maze-like
showing
when
off
looking for
copyrighted
things.
stuff. You can't. Well, you can copyright. You just can't patent. That shit's on the internet for free anyway, Tim.
Tim, stop causing trouble. Here, quick, photocopy the index. See, look, that's how you do an index, everybody. Look at this. This fucking rule book is what? How many pages is it? This rule book is just over 100 pages, and it has a fucking index. And look at the index. Look how much stuff's in this index. Yeah.
Well, there
are rule books 3 times as big as this that don't have indexes. Why? You fucking idiots.
The other
Why?
thing, we've just touched on it with ring binding. The format of your book. That is a little digest A5 size rule book. It's a pocket book. It fits with all the factions, etc. It's nice.
I mean,
these big thick tomes.
Yeah, we come back to what is the book for, and one of the things we mentioned was it's a tool to reference during the game, etc. Okay? Now, if your book... fucking hell! If your book looks like this, like the old Warhammer Fantasy rulebook, it's a beautiful book. There's no doubt about this. This is a book that you could take pleasure taking off the shelf and just reading for the pleasure of reading a beautiful book with its silk ribbon, page marker and stuff like that. But do you want this on the table with you when you're trying to play a game? Of course you fucking don't. What you want on the table with you is this. A stripped down digest version, because this is the lore of the old world. This is every, faction broken down with a description. This is bloody magic item lists and core rules and spell lists. And this is every
pictures of gaming tables.
A hobby section on how to play Warhammer and how to build Warhammer terrain. And this has got everything, the kitchen sink and its pet in it. It's beautiful. But it's not a practical, workable tool. This is.
No, because again, those first 100, 200 pages of that 400-page book, you don't actually use in the game. You use them when you sat at home.
Yeah. I mean,
the worst offender for this, TT Combat Battle for Earth.
Yeah, I've got it here.
Battle for Earth was released such that it was the updated rules for DZC and the tweaks, as well as the new Drop Fleet faction. We have over 200 pages of a 350-odd page rulebook.
No, so this book, I was about to call it a rulebook, but actually I'm not even going to do that because it doesn't deserve the title. No. This book is a 304-page softback book. It is full of beautiful 2-page art pieces with about 20 lines of, 20 words on each page. This is a gorgeous thing. Okay, it's full of tons of lore and history. Look, fucking star charts of the galaxy. There is loads of stuff in this. Now, in this 300 odd pages, there are the core rules that allow you to play Drop Zone Commander. Now, would anybody like to...
about 25 pages, don't they,
I was going to say, shall we have a guess as how much of the 304 pages is dedicated to rules? The rules start on page 252. So essentially 50 pages being generous. So 1/6 of this book is rules. 1/6.
Is denoted to actual rules and playing.
Now, the other thing that is an absolute brain-scratching madness of this book is this book contains nearly the same amount of pages, so nearly 50 pages of data sheets for miniatures from Drop Fleet Commander, for which the rules are not even in this book. So you have all these data sheets for miniatures for a game you can't even play with this book.
No,
Why?
what makes it even more egregious? What makes it even more egregious? All those data sheets get tweaked every 5 minutes on the not every 5 minutes on the internet, but have been tweaked since release for balance purposes, and they printed them in the core rulebook. Why? You've got a web builder. You force everybody to use that.
I mean, even if you say, oh yeah, but they weren't using their web tools when that was a thing, it's like,
bullshit. They were out at the same time as it. They released it at the same time.
Actually, I tell a lie. There are 2 pages of rules for specific things.
No, they're not even rules though, are they? Aren't they scenarios?
No, there is 2 pages of rules which covers ship special rules on the data cards that aren't in the core rulebook, the Dreadnought crippling damage table and the Dreadnought catastrophic damage table, presumably because they're not in the core rulebook, and the Battle for Earth campaign page. So it's like, that's, do you know what a fantastic teaser. Can I play this game? No, I fucking can't. Absolute night, Pandy.
You can play 2 pages of it. That's it.
I mean, coming back to smaller books. Okay, so you say, well, why don't there is drawbacks, and again, why doesn't every company do a little A5 digest version of their rules? Blah blah blah. Well, because there are drawbacks. Because I've got an example here. Let me see if I can share it for everybody. This was probably
you about to put it up on?
No, this was probably the best example I could find. What's... Oh, I don't want that one. I want this one. Okay, so no, most people will not know what this is. This is a page out of this rulebook. So Prodos Games did the Aliens versus Predator board game. And as well as that, they did a small A5 digest rulebook for a full-blown miniatures game that you played with the miniatures from Aliens versus Predator. And this is a full set of wargaming rules. This covers 2 things for me. Probably the most minor sin, because it is so subjective for rulebooks, is readability. And I've got another great example.
But that looks like size 6 font.
The problem is,
doesn't look the most legible of fonts.
No, the font is terrible. The character spacing is terrible. The whole readability of this is terrible. And it's A5, so it's fucking tiny. Okay, utter madness. If you're gonna produce your rulebook in only one format and it's A5, the font choice, legible. The line spacing, it immediately jumps to the front of the queue for priority. What the absolute fuck, peeps? Here's a tip. If you're no good at desktop publishing, there might be somebody out there on Fiverr who'll do it for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we have the techniques and tools now to do this stuff right. And in some cases, again, you can give companies a pass. This is the small digest version of the rules for the Middle-earth strategy battle game. Specifically, these were the ones in the Hobbit starter sets when after the initial movies and they were doing the Hobbit cycle. And this is pretty much unreadable. I'll try and put it on the desktop cam. again, it has readability issues simply because the fucking font is so tiny. Let me see if I can do this for everyone. We won't show too much of this off, but which one do we want? We want this one. Okay, it's not allowed. Oh no, yeah, there it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Right. Okay. So this is not. It looks great and readable there because it's. Okay. My phone is
Zoom right.
right. This is actually quite representative. It's difficult to read, but I'll be honest. I'll give Games Workshop a pass because effectively they've taken the beautifully presented full A4 or full scap or whatever fucking page size they use for the big version and just shrunk it. So it's literally a shrink print of a bigger book. So yeah, you're going to run into issues with fonts when you do that. But it's very expensive to completely redesign it. So do you know what I mean? It's like at least they did it. At least they said, "Oh, that's a bit of a beefy book to be taking to your games. Let's trim that down." Yeah, but we don't want to put another 40 hours of layout into that, do we? Because that's a bit expensive. We'll just fucking shrink print it. It's fine. It'll be okay. And you know what? Give them a pass. What else can we talk about that's maybe not so negative? Do you know what?
Should we talk about? Hang on. Should we talk about rule books as an advertisement and as a stall?
Because again, as a thing to sell your game. Do you mean?
The thing I'm thinking of off the top of my head, right? Battle for Earth is softback flexible. My copy's a bit dog-eared.
Yes.
We'll come to that in a bit, JJ. My copy of my softback is a bit dog-eared. The copy of the Blood Bowl rules that I've got
done that deliberately, Tim, because I hate you.
Hardbound, and is what's it called? Has the little page marker in, is really nice. And they are designed to sell stuff because at the end of the day, there is some very nice characterful artwork in that Blood Bowl book, and it has been designed in such a way that it shouldn't really age as they release new teams over time, because they've done it in such a way that it's full of cartoon art style.
Yeah, I've got an example here. So yeah, this is again, but this again is a double-edged sword. Shark says too many companies take the view that the rulebook is actually a vehicle for selling product and constantly serving as a billboard for company products and accessories. And the excessive use of art assets can definitely be an indicator of this, Shark. You're spot on, mate. Games Workshop books are beautiful things, okay? My issue is twofold on the negative side. Firstly, look at the wasted fucking space just on this single page from the Blood Bowl rulebook, okay?
And that isn't the only page like that, boys and girls.
No, it did not take... This was not chosen as an egregious example, and it was not hard to find. Okay? 50% of this page is taken up with a beautiful, admittedly, hand-drawn image or digitally drawn image. But the book is 2/3 longer than it needs to be to get the job done. And it is the only format of the rules. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Games Workshop, don't do a free digital asset that has all of this removed. Because this...
Or again, do a little digest copy like Flames, provide it in your starter sets.
Which they used to do. Games Workshop used to do this for their flagship games, Warhammer Fantasy 40k. Anybody who's bought a 40k starter set, like the 10th edition one, if you're not in the chat, which I doubt you are because we don't attract many 40k fans, if you're watching us later on YouTube and you play 40k, just let me know. Did 10th edition have a digest version of the rulebook in the starter box? I don't think it did, but I am perfectly happy to be said, no, you're wrong, it did. Because it used to be something that, damn it, they used to be good at. And in fact, the digest versions of their rules used to sell like hotcakes on places like eBay because that's what people wanted. The other problem is, not only is this wasted space, but the price tag is 2 or 3 times bigger than it needs to be. Okay? We pay for this. Okay? This isn't a freebie for us customers. The reason Games Workshop books are 40, 50, 60 quid for a 100-page rulebook is because this has to be paid for. We pay for it. Okay? I mean, let's come to JJ's point, which David picked up on earlier. JJ says, what about digital versus physical? Digital, again, the thing about this thing about rulebooks is there is no perfect answer, okay? There are people...
There's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
No, there are people who will push back hard against digital rulebooks, okay? Particularly people... Yeah, I mean, and again, I'll be honest, things like, if anything's digital online, unless it's ridiculously cumbersome and is too big, looking at you, the N4 rulebook online, I will normally print it on my laser printer so that I have a physical version. Because I do not like using digital assets, particularly during games. I will read through a PDF of rules when I'm, in that off-game mode and I'm relaxed in my front room, just sitting on the sofa. Don't mind interacting with the PDF. I'd prefer a book if you're offering me the option and it isn't a king's ransom.
Can I just also add something on this digital versus physical? For fuck's sake, if you have both options, please ensure that if your digital book is basically the digitized version of what you're printing that went to the printers, that when you're saving it as a PDF or whatever it happens to be, and you haven't got an index in your book because you're a certain caliber of game, that you at least don't do the horrible thing, which is embed every single page as a fucking JPEG so that it is completely unsearchable.
Yeah, definitely. And again,
for that, there is a special place reserved in fucking hell for you.
That is, you know what? That is such a good shout. If you are going to go to the trouble to have a digital document, get somebody who understands how digital documents work, the powers and tools that can be locked within a digital document, and exploit the fuck out of them. Like David says, making the world's most cheap-ass rendered PDF that's effectively JPEG of page 1, JPEG of page 2, JPEG of page 3, all stitched together, so it's no use to man nor fucking beast. It's virtually impossible to zoom. It doesn't display well on different screen sizes. It's like, if you're going digital, get an expert to help if you're not already one yourself. Just a hot tip. There's another thing that does apply to this digital versus analog argument, which we really probably need to talk about now, and that is physical rule books are beautiful things. I would much rather, I would more than rather have a physical rule book if you've got one. Okay, even if it's a little A5e digest thing that I buy for a £5 or a £10 or whatever, I'd still rather have this.
It comes included in a starter set.
Yeah. I like the way Darren's explained. Apparently, the 40k start sets now include the full hardback version. That'll be to inflate the price.
Well, they want to at the price they are.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
That was that to do. Take the sting out of the affordability bollocks. Anyway, I would rather have this than not have this. But okay, if you are going to commit your game to print, do it intelligently, right? This book, another genius part of this Flames of War book is there's no points in here. There's no unit profiles in here.
No particular rules for a faction. It tells you, go here. There's only the core rules for each individual faction of Americans do this, British do that, Russians do this, Germans do that.
We were just saying that, Tim, about having see, I mean, again, a digital tool. Tim says screen readly for visually impaired people. You know, this book is generic enough. They just stick it in every army starter box. I think we're right in the saying that. Correct us if we're wrong in the comments below. When we've bought army starter boxes, they always have this little digest rulebook in it. Fucking brilliant. Yeah. Absolute genius. Now, if I do want my unit stats and my unit cards and blah, 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 they're somewhere else. Because the problem with them is they might change. They might revise rules. They might alter points. Now, you might not know initially, but you're probably going to know quite quickly how complex your game is and how likely it is that sort of stuff is going to change on a whim. Now, break my set.
Again, we'll just refer to the elephant in the room here of GW.
Well, let's start with Joe.
They put... Well, what I'm just about to say is they obviously put those in a specific book and a codex.
I haven't got a 40k codex because I don't play 40k anymore, but I will put both of these up as contrasting examples, and David can talk about
because they change so quickly and frequently. The points aren't ever the same. Like before the book is even released now with 10th edition, there's points changes to what's printed in your codex.
Yeah. And sometimes even fucking rules changes, but that's a completely different kettle of fish. I mean...
Versus Joseph McCullough, okay, that is the 2nd edition rule book you have.
No, this is actually the 1st edition because it was the first one I grabbed. But the point stands, right?
Changes between 2nd and 1st, but the core points and the core rules on units have not changed.
No, this game, Joseph confidently knew when he designed this game that the level of complexity and the actual sort of like design space that this game had, with essentially the only number-driven thing in this is the actual gold coin cost of the troops that you buy. There aren't points values as such, are there, mate?
No.
Maybe there's a few gold costs of magic items in the back of the book.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of this is so fucking stable. He committed this to print, and I don't know when the 2nd edition came out, but this rule book was probably infallible for 5 years, 6 years, maybe more.
Well, look at the print date in the front of that, because I can tell you roughly when 2nd edition came. 2nd edition Frostgrave, I think, came 2021. I want to say from memory.
2015, 6 years. 5 to 6 years that book was good for.
Because we called it when we played Ghost Archipelago up in Scotland in 2020 that was going to be a change that was coming for 2nd edition Frostgrave that was either later that year or early next year.
Yeah, and like Darren says, everything in one place, brilliant. If it suits your game. Okay?
I mean, again, Joseph that is not an example there of an amazing and stellar rulebook. Me and Paul have our grievances with the rulebook, mainly in all the warband building and stuff is at the front, makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
All the scenarios and monster tables that you're going to reference a lot for the game are at the back. That makes perfect sense. But fuck me, does the out of game and campaign sequence jump around a bit and chop and change?
Yeah, for me, Frostgrave is an 8 or 9 out of 10. It doesn't have an index, which is,
No.
However, it does have summaries of spells at the back. It has the monsters at the back, the monster descriptions at the back. The only it gets almost everything right. Like David says, the rules for establishing a base are at the end of your first game. Put them in the fucking warband creation section, and then just put, you don't need to do this until after you've played your first game, because it's all part of warband creation. Where they are makes no fucking sense. Just before you roll for injuries, but it's close to perfect.
Like,
it's got beautiful photographs, but they're not too many. It's readable.
Yeah.
But the text has got great guttering. It's a readable font. There's not too much of it. The tables are well laid out. The font's a little small in the tables,
as I say,
to be fair.
The only thing being for me is the out-of-game sequence for between campaign games.
Yeah.
Realistically should be after the scenarios towards the back of the book, because you are referring to it after every single game, and every single game we have played, do we spend about a minute trying to find the page?
That's fair. But I mean, the converse to putting everything in one place is you split your game up, like the example we had a minute ago, Flames of War. Flames of War obviously has Christ knows how many factions. There are as many factions for this game as there were armies in World War II. So you tell me how many that was, because that's probably a lot. There is each of those factions probably has dozens, if not in some cases, up to 100 plus units and profiles, and those all have individual points values, individual rules, blah blah blah. To print that in one place, utter madness. So they don't bother. It's all split across card assets and various other locations. Games Workshop, they put all of their non-core stuff, points values, whatever, into books like this. Now, I'll be honest, I don't understand why you would, in this day and age, put this sort of information in this sort of format. If you've got information that you know by the design of your game and you know from experience is going to be transient and liable to change, if you are committing it to paper and if you are doing a physical version, it wants to be the cheap-ass product that you can make, because you do not want to give any obstacle or barrier to your players to rebuy it when shit changes. Okay?
No.
I'll be honest, this is where the digital world has transformed our hobby, or has the potential to, because there is no need for you to commit this to print anymore. The only reason Games Workshop still do codexes, is to mill us for cash. Games like Malifaux, Infinity.
You buy the digital content once, or in the case of some games, it's given to you free. Infinity being a good example with its web builder app.
Yep.
And as points update and change, and as things vary, it automatically updates for you.
Yeah.
Can I just come to another company here that are kind of knocking it out of the park, which is Mantic? So the Mantic rule books on a whole are very good. They flow well. unsure if they have an index off the top of my head. Can't remember if Armada has an index. Armada is the main
The only
one I am
Mantic book
referencing.
I have to hand is the Dead Zone 2nd edition one. And it does not have an index as such. It has a QRF. Having said that, this is a very lightweight rulebook. I mean,
but anyway,
if I
the
take,
point
it's
I'm
probably
trying to
only
make
about
here,
30 pages of rules after I take the.
They now have
profiles
the
out.
Mantic Companion subscription where you can pay a monthly fee
40
and you get the
pages.
rules and army builder included. If you don't pay the fee, you can build up to 2 armies for each thing and get their core free rules, which is a nice feature.
Keywords are still masked, however.
But one thing I would like to say here, Mantic, your rule books are good, the flow's nice, the artwork balance is nice, they're readable, they're understandable. My biggest gripe is with Armada, and the biggest gripe I have with it is the fact that you embed optional rules or rules core to the game, such as the fucking skill rating of your inexperienced, regular, or veteran crews.
I may have a picture.
In a box out. What the fuck is that about?
Yeah, this.
It is a core part of the rules. Put it with a core part of the rules.
Yeah, this is
not in a shitty little box that you can skim over because you think it contains
fluff.
Optional information.
Yeah, correct. I'll be honest, when I read the entire Armada rulebook, skipping these box outs because I assumed that they were fluff.
Yeah.
And it's like, when we were playing, we were like, well, there seems to be bits that we're missing here. And it's like, now that could be our bad, but I would comment that, you know, we used a product that had been designed by someone, and actually it was not intuitive that you were highlighting these as important rules in these box outs.
No, because they don't look important from their presence on the page. There's no like warning or anything or color change on font.
I'll be honest though,
and
this
some of the
sort of stuff
is optional rules.
So, but to be fair though, David, this sort of stuff is the softest sort of gripe, because, you know, when you're talking, even like I had a bit of a bitch moan about readability and font size and that sort of thing. That's because I'm 52 years old and my eyes don't work. You know, there's a lot of subjectivity and individuality to this. Some people might say, well, that's clearly highlighted. It's even got a dashed border. But do you know what I mean? Yes, there is subjectivity to some of this. It's not as objective as some other things. But there's definitely some aspects of the way rule books are thought about that are just objectively fucking bad. My two...
I mean, again, the other thing is having people or having a proof copy of your rules, and print a proof copy of your rules, give it to some inexperienced players to play test with, and watch how they interact and work with
which
it.
I mean, I think a lot of companies do, particularly board game companies, good ones, spend a lot of time on this sort of stuff. But fuck me, some of the things, and the thing is as well, what's sad is when you see it about a good game. Do you know what I mean? You've actually got you think this is a good game. It's like Carnivale. Every time we play Carnivale, we're like, fucking hell, this is amazing, this game. But the rulebook is terrible.
Every time we walk away from it though, and we're like, we need to redo this rulebook and type it up again, and we park it for 3 months, and then we come back to it, and it's like, we never did do that, did we?
I mean, that's another thing about. I think that Infinity, because I couldn't play Infinity with the rulebook until I discovered.
No, you need the app.
You need the wiki. You need the app functionality, which links through to the wiki, so that you can literally click on a word in your fucking army list and bang, you're
MSV level 2. Bang, you're at the web.
You're at the wiki page, and obviously the Infinity rulebook, again, I tried using the PDF for N4. It's just too big and not searchable. It's just
PDF is okay
nightmare.
for setup, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's not.
You know,
it gives you a scenario and helps you set up. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, what? Because again, I think probably the correct way to do it is to not have a rule book. Literally, unless you're doing a Joseph McCulloch where you're selling your game through Osprey and the only thing you've got is the book, then just do the best job you can on it. You know, make sure that the layout is usable.
Just do a nice digital edition that references everything we've already spoken about, which is indexing, some nice artwork, nice layout, readability, nice flow.
Yeah.
No bullshit with pop-outs and optional rules. Make it very clear if it's an optional rule.
I mean,
that it is optional.
Tim, some dude on YouTube says everything any company does is for taking our cash, because that was in reference to my comment earlier about Games Workshop and their fucking obsession with codexes. The problem is this, Tim, right? And I would, we're going to use this as the parting comment, right? If you're telling me that I mean, I'm no longer a fan because they've pushed my buttons far too many times. But if you're telling me that somebody who is a fan of 40k is going to say, "Oh, that's awesome! I don't have to spend 40 quid on the codex. That's 40 quid I've saved." Won't just go and spend 40 quid on something else for 40k. I don't believe you. Do you know what I mean? I don't buy the argument that the company loses money by not doing these products, because I think the customers will just buy something else.
Well, again, I don't want to be that guy. And I know, obviously, in the tournament scene, particularly for 40k, it's you must have a copy of the rule book, you must have a copy of your codex. I don't see tourney players rocking up to a tournament with their codex, with all the pages marked with a little fucking post-it note index markers of this is this faction and that's everything. They have a fucking A4 printout and they have the codex to reference the rules.
If they've bothered to bring it at all.
If they need them.
And as I say, I've seen lots of talk online of people deliberately not taking their codexes to games so that they can get away with saying what the rules actually are, and it causing problems for judges. But we won't get into that because this is not the stream for that. As I say,
but again, I think it's a point and a parting shot.
I think that unless you're doing the Joseph McCulloch and you've just got a one-stop shop, mate. Well, I don't know if you'd agree. The best thing to do, if you're not in that camp, you should split your tools up. You should have a QRF, a get started guide, a little easy digest rulebook, and then put your lore into a fucking book or something.
Shark has just mentioned Warlords and the fucking second edition rulebook that is a fucking crock of shite. But we'll gloss over that. The layout and the flow is terrible. For me, the rulebook is an intrinsic part of the game you are playing to a degree.
Yep.
Depending upon the game. If you are given other tools, in the case of like Infinity, etc., where you can get away with some digital shit, fine. Let me get away with murder. It's all free anyway. Yeah. For the other games, which are not necessarily to the same intensity and level as Infinity, you should be turning up to the table with a rulebook at the bare minimum. That rulebook should be easy to use and easy to reference, whether that is with contents, keywords, soup index, flow, all of the things we have mentioned tonight on this topic, because it is handy if you're teaching somebody the game and there's a query on it of how does this work and they're more used to working with 40k or another system, and then they can at least flick through the rule book and have a look and not have to take your word as gospel of this is how it works for this game. That's a nice aspect of it. But again, the touch point here being they should be a tool to aid you in playing your game. They should not be a chore to use or function with to get the enjoyment and experience out of the game you are playing. You shouldn't come away feeling like you've had a migraine every time because you couldn't find what you needed in the rulebook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And but again, it is, and it's like all of those things. Somebody might say, "Oh, it's really hard to achieve all of those things in one book." Well, don't do it with one book. Develop tools for the job. You know, I just, we shouldn't be married to the idea that we have these biblical rule books where they are a one-stop shop for everything. And in fact, to be honest, it probably is the worst way of doing something when you've got, if your company is sizable enough that you are giving your rules away for free and making your money off something else because the book isn't the primary asset, don't do it that way. I mean, do you know what TT Combat do the, it's like the Carnivale thing. You know, probably the only thing that they do that doesn't make a lot of sense is put too much fluff in their rule books. They should do Carnivale should have an A5 Digest rulebook that's 10, 15 quid, and then they should have law books.
A law and art book.
I'd have bought the Blood on the Water book, or call it a campaign book. Just put scenarios in it. I'll still buy it as a gamer, but then I don't have to use it.
Look at Joseph. Look at Frostgrave. All of the campaign books that you have there.
Brilliant example. Look, we've prattled on for far too long. You guys probably want to get to bed. So
one thing I will say before we go and before you round out.
Yeah.
If you're watching this later on YouTube, put in the comments below what are good examples, what are poor examples, what you like about rule books, what you don't like about rule books, and the ones that you're indifferent about.
Although, to be fair, the most interesting ones, I put your favourite and why, and your worst and why, or one or the other. Because that's generally, I think they're going to be the most interesting for people to read. And certainly, I would like to read them. It's like, I could be a bit critical of bolt actions or what Shark said earlier. But I'm sure people, yeah, definitely, Shark. As soon as we're finished with this, we're going to have another bowl. Oh my God, we've got barbed wire wrapped around our pipe. That's a bit freaky. Look, let's wind this show up. Thank you very much for you. If you were here tonight and you were in the chat, let's, you know, these guys over to my left are make the show. They're the reason that we do this. If you're catching us again later on YouTube, then all of our thanks go to you. If you can only do one thing to interact with the show, please click the like button. Do it now. I'll do it later. But please click the like button on the videos. It does push us just a little bit with the YouTube algorithm, and we greatly appreciate that. If you can do the other stuff, then that's fucking awesome. But the like button is all that we ask for, because we know your time is precious and you've got other shit to do. So yeah, thanks very much. We hope the topic was informative and that you enjoyed it. And we will be back next week with some more shenanigans.
Judging painting competition, boys and girls.
Oh,
yes. See you soon.
So if you want to get your painting competition entries in, there is a link. There is a link in the video description box here on YouTube, where you can email them to a Gmail address, I think it is. Or if you are a member of the On Tabletop community and want to send me as a DM on the Discord server there, you can do that as well. And if you're not a member of the On Tabletop community on Discord, what the fuck are you doing with your life? You should be. Right, guys, we're going to see you later.
See you next week. How the fuck is it September already?
I know. See you next Thursday. It works, sort of.